Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick live stream Core Pick video for today, May 25th. It's going to be a little bit smaller slate today, only a 6-game main slate in total. If you guys are playing over on DraftKings, I believe it's a 5-game main slate over there, but mainly touch on the FanDuel side here myself personally. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. If you're watching on replay, if you're watching live, feel free to drop them in the live chat, and I will answer them as quickly as possible. But for those of you that are brand new to my channel, checking this video out for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. This is kind of the format that I typically like to use. Yesterday was a little bit different since we did have Woody on and joining us, so it went a little bit longer. Some people like that. Some people didn't like that. It's going to be something that does happen from time to time here and there, but typically the normal structure is going over a recap of the picks from the prior day, going over a little bit of the weather report for the games on the main slate for that specific day, going over to FanDuel, talking about my core picks, kind of the reasons I like them overall for today. And then last but not least, going over the YouTube community tab, talking about the bottom half of my cheat sheet for that day and the top teams to stack for GPP purposes. Obviously, if you want more in-depth notes, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. Small monthly donation is $5 a month. Monday through Friday, you get some additional notes. Is 25 cents a day, essentially, maybe even less than that by the time you average it out over the month. So very small price to pay there to get some extra things, some extra information, save you guys some time, and help you build some hopefully winning lineups at the same time. But with that being said, we're going to start with a recap of yesterday's picks. At the pitcher position, Nestor Cortez at $8,300. Got to 21 points. Unfortunately, gave up 4 runs in 6 innings. Not the highest strikeouts. Had pretty good history versus Baltimore in the past. Was doing pretty well throughout most of the game. Gave a couple of late runs, which hurt him overall. Lost that quality start. Potentially lost the win. So, that could have been like a 10-point swing there. If we get, close to 36 points out of him, we would have been pretty happy at that. Then initially in my core, I had Salvador Perez at that catcher position. He was $3,200. Some decent history in the past versus Matthew Boyd, but unfortunately did not end up starting yesterday. They gave him the day off. So I said to pivot to Anthony Rizzo. He's $3,300. Got to 6.5 points. So I did give him a push. Wasn't really anybody that hurt our lineup, but wasn't anybody that helped our lineup at the exact same time. So he was just a guy there. Like that Yankee stack a little bit yesterday. Gleyber Torres was kind of the main one in there that did really well. But I was thinking about Anthony Rizzo, Rob Refsnyder, who was, at the top of the lineup for the Red Sox, was another guy under consideration, a guy that we did mention a little bit yesterday. But so then we moved down to Justin Turner, $3,000, got 6 points to give him a push as well. Once again, not anybody that helped us, not anybody that hurt us. And then we had Aaron Judge, who had a really strong history versus Tyler Wells in the past. $4,500, only got to 9 points. Obviously, we would like to get at least 12 or at least double-digit points out of him, but he got to 9 points to give him a push yesterday. And then last but not least, we had Jorge Soler at $3,500. Got 27.9 points, so he was obviously a hit and a pretty good play overall, pretty popular play at that yesterday as well. So not the greatest day yesterday. I still played about 4 different lineups myself personally, 3 out of those 4 cash. So some of the stacks that we did mention, some of the stacks that we did talk about, some of the players we talked about on the stream were still profitable at the same time. Bryce Miller did end up being that top pitcher, which was kind of a debate Woody and I had as we were going through the stream yesterday. So if you watch that, hopefully you got a little bit of Bryce Miller and mix to match some solid value pieces alongside him. But with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing this screen at this point in time. We'll go over to RotoWire, take a look over at the weather and play for today. And for whatever reason, I accidentally put up NBA RotoWire. So let me get over here to the weather for today for RotoWire for MLB. And at this point in time, it doesn't look like anything major as we're walking through it. But, the first game we got is the Chicago White Sox, Detroit Tigers. No real weather concerns there. Same thing for Baltimore and the New York Yankees. Then we move down to Atlanta, which 1% chance of rain for today. So that one looks pretty one of those as of late that hasn't been the greatest. We do get a little bit of info here. Now they have Jacob Junis listed as the primary for the Giants. At least early on, it looked like Scott Alexander was going to open. Logan Webb was going to follow him. So could be a little bit better spot for the Brewers as through today. Obviously, probably try to get through that and update that in my notes over on Patreon for you guys that do follow there. And for Milwaukee side, Julio Teheran's expected to start for them. Hasn't pitched in the majors since 2021, so that should be an interesting spot as well. But really no weather concerns at this point in time. So we're going to stop sharing the screen, go over to FanDuel real quick, talk through the core picks that I do have for today. So I'm bringing this up here as we are talking through it. At the pitcher position, we're going right away with Lucas Giolito. He's $10,000. Probably going to be a pretty popular option on today's slate overall. Obviously, 6-game main slate. You only got 12 pitchers to choose from. Julio Teheran's not even listed on the slate at this point in time. So knocks it down to 11. You got kind of an opener between Scott Alexander and now Jacob Junis for the Giants. So you might want to knock that one off too. So we're maybe down to 10 pitchers. So Lucas Giolito is going to be pretty popular. I think Aaron Nola, I think Logan Gilbert will be up there as well. But I do like Giolito today. He's got decent history versus Detroit in the past. Had 5 starts first time last year, so a little bit of mixed results here, but he had 40, 26, 36, 29, and 30 points versus them in 2020. So it does offer some decent upside. He's been pitching better as of late so far this season, so definitely like him once again. When you look at his stats on the season, you got that 33 fantasy points, about what he's averaging, 3 wins, 3.62 ERA. And like I said, just been a little bit better as of late. So really hasn't had any bad starts besides the 0-1, which was the second start of the year. Definitely a guy that we'd like considering. He seems like a pretty safe play, pretty reasonable play at this point in time. Then at first base, went back to Anthony Rizzo today, who was our replacement core pick yesterday for Salvador Perez, who did not end up starting. Anthony Rizzo is 2 for 2 with 1 home run versus Kyle Gibson in his career, so some pretty decent upside there. Obviously, been playing pretty reasonably well as of late, averaging almost 12 fantasy points on the season. And as we get into it, 310 batting average, 11 home runs, 29 RBIs. That's like the highest batting average we've seen on Anthony Rizzo in quite some time. But we got a 5-game hitting streak for him. 3 of those 5 games have been multi-hit games. 2 games do include home runs. So definitely some pretty strong upside for him today. Pretty reasonable price tag at $3,300. Then at second base, we're going with somebody who's just been really hot as of late. Not as much recent or past history versus Kyle Gibson. He's only 1 for 9 in the past versus Kyle Gibson. But it's Gleyber Torres. He's on a 4-game hitting streak. He's got multi-hit games in 3 of those games, $3,200. You see the 258 average, 7 home runs, 22 RBIs, 10.4 fantasy points per game. Obviously had the really strong day yesterday with the 2 home runs. And, he's had been hitting the ball really well as of late. So definitely don't have too many concerns with him. Like I said, 4-game hitting streak, hitting the 7 out of the last 8 games. So some pretty strong upside, safer floor than typically with him. And he's a guy that's been running a little bit more this year as well. So like the Yankees there, they're one of the stacks that when we get to my cheat sheet, you'll see that they're not there. But if you look on the Patreon page, there's about 8 teams listed to stack for today overall, just because not the greatest pitching in the world overall today. Then as we keep moving down, I ended up on Trey Turner at shortstop, $2,800. Been a very slow start to the season for him this year, but he's got no history in the past versus Dylan Dodd. Dylan Dodd's making his 4th career start. Trey Turner, it's only $2,800. He's averaging just a little bit over 9 fantasy points per game. He had a home run yesterday, obviously. Been starting to turn it around a little bit more. He's got at least 1 hit in a lot of these games here in like the last 20 that we can see in the game log. So definitely like the upside that he does present. Maybe steals a base, maybe it's a couple hits and kind of pays off in that regard. Shortstop's not the greatest position today in general. There's definitely some options out there, but looking at a guy like him, you could definitely go there. You could go with a guy like Tim Anderson going against Alex Fedio as well. But Trey Turner ended up being the pick for me today overall. And then last but not least, we have Michael Conforto, who is, I believe, $3,100 at this point in time. Averaging just over 10 fantasy points per game. Going against the Milwaukee Brewers today, probably hitting in that middle of the lineup for the Giants once again. He's 10 for 30 with 1 home run in his career versus Julio Teheran. Like I said, Teheran has not pitched in the majors, since 2021, and that was 1 lone start that year too. So you might as well call it 2020. Hadn't been the greatest in the minors and AAA for the Padres affiliate. So like Conforto here, he's had some upside as of late. 2 home runs in the last 3 games. So definitely like the power potential there. Going against the guy who hasn't really pitched too much in the major leagues in quite some time. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here, you'll have $12,600 remaining, just over $3,100 per player. So if you want to do a little bit more balance build, that's fine on today's slate. If you want to pay up for a couple different options, pay down at some other positions, that's a good way to mix and match as well. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing the FanDuel screen. We'll move over to the bottom half of the YouTube community tab and talk about the top GPP teams to stack for today. at least according to the bottom half of like I said, if you're on Patreon, definitely be sure to check that out. If you're not, even if you just want to sign up for 1 month and kind of get some of the top stacks for, today, the next month, everything else like that, there is quite a few stacks out there in general. And like I say, a lot of days only 4 fit in the cheat sheet more times than not. So definitely a lot of different ways that we can approach tonight's slate. Good slate to mix and match. Once again, there's no true standout pitchers, but if you look at the top half of my cheat sheet, there's Logan Gilbert. There is Lucas Giolito, who we highlighted as the core pick. I like JP Sears a little bit today, maybe a little bit underowned. $8,300, has some decent history versus Seattle, coming off a good start. So could be in play there. I think a lot of people probably be chasing that Seattle stack once again, though. But in terms of the stacks that we do have for today, we have the New York Mets going against Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks making the first start of the year season for him. So when you look at the Mets hitters, it's like Eduardo Escobar, Dan Vogelbach, Tommy Pham, Jeff McNeil all have pretty good history versus him. And then you have some other power potential bats that you could slip in there as well. Francisco Alvarez hit a home run yesterday. Pete Alonso's been doing a little bit better as of late. So definitely a lot of ways that we could attack that team overall. If you want to take a chance on like Starling Marte or somebody else like that, you can do that as well. And then we have the Chicago White Sox going against Alex Fadio. Last year, they faced him one time. He only had 3 fantasy points in that game. So definitely like the White Sox once again today. Yohan Moncada has a home run versus him in his career. Andrew Vaughn's 2 for 3 versus him. Luis Robert's 1 for 2, but he's dealing with a little bit of hip injury. So not a lot of history there, but do like attacking this White Sox team today overall. And then, like I said, like going with the Giants today, 2 against Julio Teheran. Like I already mentioned a couple times, has not pitched in the majors since 2021. Not the greatest in AAA this year, but Brewers kind of need pitching depth, and they signed him since they have so many guys that are banged up and on the IL at this point in time. Who knows how good he'll be? Who knows how far he'll go into this game? Giants do look pretty good against him. Michael Conforto's hit him well in the past. J.D. Davis has a home run versus him as well. Wilmer Flores has a home run and a little bit of decent history versus him as well. Can play first and third base if you want to throw him out there. And then last but not least, the Baltimore Orioles going against Clark Schmidt of the New York Yankees. Not too much history here in the past, but Jorge Mateo hit him well. Ryan Mountcastle does have a little bit of upside there. Adam Frazier's been hitting the ball pretty well as of late. Pretty much anybody in this Baltimore lineup you can mix and match against Clark Schmidt. And like I said, I got some Yankees in my core picks. You can definitely stack them today against Kyle Gibson, who's been a little bit hit or miss so far this season and most of his career in general. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of this video, this live stream for the MLB DFS Core Picks. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. If there's any weather updates throughout the day, I'll leave them down there as well. I'll get to as many starting lineups down there as well. Got another baseball game going on today. For those of you who don't know, I do coach 9th grade baseball. So any time up before 4 p.m. Central Time, I'll have all the starting lineups there. Any ones that are posted later on will not be included, but I'll get to as many as possible. Once again, definitely let me know your favorite play on today's slate, whether it's someone from more core picks, whether it's someone from my top stacks, whether it's someone from my cheat sheet, or whether it's a completely different player. Definitely interested in hearing what you guys have to say. But with that being said, if you're checking out my channel for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Definitely do appreciate you checking it out. If you enjoy the content that I put out, feel free to subscribe. Definitely helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, it is primarily MLB DFS as well as USFL DFS. USFL DFS video will be coming out tomorrow for those of you who follow that as well. But with that being said, if you have yet to do so, also hit that notification bell down below. It's going to let you know every single time I go live, post up a pre-recorded video or anything else like that. And then last but not least, definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in today. Definitely appreciate the support. Definitely appreciate you checking the video out, taking the time out of your day. It definitely means a lot to me, whether you're watching live or on replay. And with that being said, I hope each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.